Burlesque isn't just about performance. It's about creating safer spaces, building a community where cis, trans and non-binary women, along with other marginalised groups, feel welcome. This approach to designing, organising and managing spaces is not only inclusive, it also provides us with an important grassroots solution to safety. Burlesque has no governing body. What it is a deregulated industry, and as such, there are pockets of good practice that we can learn from throughout the UK within these burlesque communities. And what I wanted to do in this project was to learn from that good practice of inclusivity, of safeguarding and of protecting kind of marginalised identities, and share that more broadly with the nighttime industry and with policing. What we did was that we focused in on a community in Leeds, a community in Barnsley, we brought along a group from Birmingham, and a community in Doncaster in order to learn and share their good practice in relation to inclusivity, in relation to safeguarding, and in relation to well-being. Burlesque spaces allow people, cis, trans, non-binary people, to feel a sense of self-worth, to feel like that they are valued, and to be able to kind of express themselves without judgment.
Inclusivity to me is safety. It's being able to have an environment where it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter your size, height, whatever. There's no exclusion. There is simply everyone is there to enjoy themselves, to share their gifts, not feel that they can't give an honest perspective into what they're doing, not give an honest perspective into themselves.
Society as a whole should be inclusive, so people don't feel marginalised within that. They should see themselves represented. They should see themselves as being able to safely integrate into that society and be authentically themselves. And I don't think we have a society in which people can do that. So then you start having these sort of subcultures. And if you look at a burlesque as like a subculture, you can see that actually that is a safe space for everybody. This is a safe space where people can authentically be themselves, and it's acknowledging the beauty of all the different characteristics that make people who they are.
I think inclusivity means everyone is welcome. Everyone can come bring their whatever they've got to the table, and every single person at this table has something different to bring to it. We're all different.
For me, it's important because I have been in several times of my life been like on the outskirts of society, places, choices that I may have made in the past, or I say choices that I possibly weren't really a choice. And those things have pushed me into a marginalised group. And I want to be able to provide a space for those people that have been told this space isn't for you.
Society looks at vulnerable people and thinks, oh, they shouldn't be like that. And to walk into somewhere that accepts you for that vulnerability, and where you can show that real, like I am now, that raw vulnerability, you don't have to pretend to, oh, everything's okay. It's a stable family, which people can't always get at home.
One of the things that with burlesque is that I see with many burlesque shows and things like that, it's one of the most open and inclusive areas. And I know loads of different burlesque promoters who have tried to be as inclusive as possible, not just with the public, with the audience, but with the acts as well.
Just to let you know, when I teach and stuff like that, I'm not a scary teacher, or I try not to be and stuff. So if there's anything you struggle with, just ask any questions. That's absolutely fine. I want you all to have a lot of fun today.
So for me, it's about giving back. I had the privilege of having a really lovely dance teacher when I grew up. I didn't have the best upbringing in terms of home life. Dance was my escapism. I just want people to feel what I feel and felt. And I just want to pass on what I've learned so they can have that experience and just, have that hour to forget or that evening to forget. And be surrounded by love and surrounded by community.
When I see a new person get up on that stage and do their thing, the joy that you get, it's so heartwarming and it's joyous. And I very often stand back and watch Ellie's face when a new person is at the stage where they're ready to perform. And to see the pride in her face is heartwarming for me, because I like to see that she gets something back from what we do for her.
It's the escapism. It's the fact that they can come and they can forget for an hour. They can come and be somebody else maybe. You know, it's the community, it's the fun. It's the being uplifted.
There is a sense that the host of a burlesque night will convey some of those codes of conduct, is maybe too formal a way, but a way of being. This is how we're going to treat each other, right? It's so important.
I think the tone of how you brand your night, advertise your night, how you encourage your host to verbalise your night and your rules or code of conduct is really, really important. It's about that visibility. It's not enough just to say, oh, well, we're anti this or anti that, or we want this or we want that. You need to say these things, even if it might seem obvious, or maybe if you think, oh, I don't really want to stick my neck out. I think being really obvious with those things is very, very important.
We had a lot of talks around we cannot guarantee that a space is safe for anyone, because everybody has their own notion of what makes them safe. What we can do is we can try and create a protected space. I have problems sometimes with events that, do a tick box exercise and go, yeah, we're safe. And it's like, well, we cannot guarantee that, because people can be triggered by all sorts of things and things happen. But we can try and put frameworks in place to keep everyone protected.
You've got to start somewhere, and you've got to start with something small and build upon that, and that will take a long time. But that's okay. It's going to take a long time, and don't give up, because there'll be things that go wrong along the way. So it's how can you acknowledge those things that go wrong, and how can you learn from them and build upon them as well. And that you're not going to get it right first time, and it's not going to hit every single thing that you want to hit first time either. It's a work in progress.
How do you negotiate conflict between, for example, somebody who has a migraine, so you lower the light level, but then somebody else sitting next to them may be deaf, so they need the light raised because they can't lip read. So how do you negotiate those different conflicts of
very different needs,
the complex needs, within one space?
There's only so much we can do. Unless we all won the lottery tomorrow and all bought our own venues that were completely kitted out how we wanted to, we cannot control every single thing. But what we can control is at least the information we give out. And if we try and give out as much open, honest information as possible, and say to our potential audience members, if you have any concerns, if you want to talk to us, please talk to us before the show and we will see what we can do. I think that's really all that can be asked of us, really.
I started House of Mannington essentially because when I started drag, I didn't have drag parents, as you call them, drag dads and whatever. So I was on my own trying to figure out how to do my makeup, how to get my foot in the door, and just you constantly keep getting knocked down, and people take advantage as well. They used to pay sometimes £10 and a packet of crisp, and you'll be out of pocket. And as I was starting to progress and get my name out of there, and I actually became established, and I thought I'm going to use this newfound, not necessarily power, but my name is known now, so I can use that to leverage for other people, advocate for other people. I just didn't want anyone to go through what I went through.
Only you can make a choice about what the show you do. And we have lists and, people that have been on the scene make it very aware the history of certain producers and places that aren't safe. You still see newer performers still choose to work with them, despite the evidence being very clearly laid out, because it's a prestigious venue or a good fee. But it's scary
to think that they could possibly put themselves in these situations. But you can't tell people who, you know, they're going to work with whoever they want to work with. But I think I'd never want to shut up telling them. I am living in a marginalised body. I am a fat person and I am completely comfortable with that terminology. I am queer. I am most probably neurodivergent. And I live in a world that doesn't typically accept people like me. I never feel safe if I walk into a show or see a show where the lineup is any of the above. If it is all white, I don't feel safe. I don't align with you. I don't align with your values. If you never have larger fat people in your spaces, I will never feel safe there. If your lineups are all heterosexual, I will never feel safe there. If you do not act upon gender bending, genderqueer, trans people, non-binary people, if you don't have these people in your spaces, I'm not going to feel safe. A lot of producers know that. They know what money it's going to bring through the doors if they have a black performer, a fat performer, a disabled person on stage. Not enough producers value the worth and the lived experiences of people with different lived experiences.
It's making sure that you don't have an all-white cast or an all-female presenting cast, for example. And I think that's really important because it means that performers within that cast won't necessarily feel so isolated in the sense of being the only one. But also I think for audience members as well, it's seeing that representation. It's that inclusivity for all.
I always realise that I get more bookings during Black History Month or during Pride Month than I might do any other time. But just things like that were kind of frustrations of the scene that were kind of reflected in terms of booking and sometimes how events are promoted.
I got backlash saying, well, you only get booked because you're black anyway. You're just a token booking. You're not good. I was like, excuse me? But I was like, you know, action speaks louder than words. I'm going to do me. And then look how far I've come now in terms of drag. So I just didn't want anyone else to go through that.
I don't know if there's a consideration of how that makes that individual feel.
Or how it looks from the outside.
From the outside. Yeah, sometimes, you know, when I see a lineup that's it's all the same, I kind of just want to send an email and say, I will come and do your show for you, but I want to be paid this amount.
If you have a show with 8 people in it, all 8 people should have something different about them, something different to bring to the stage. I can't tell you how many shows I've been to where like everybody that's trotted out does the same thing.
Inclusivity means including as many people from as many backgrounds with as many lived experiences as you can. By not putting these people on your lineups, you're saying this space isn't for you. It's for gay people, but not black gay people, not trans people.
There's been a lot of backlash around the types of lineups that have occurred. Lots of very white or white presenting lineups, lots of very female or assigned female at birth type lineups. There's lots of promoters that say that they don't want to do that, and there's lots of promoters that say they disagree with that, but they don't put their money where their mouth is.
My contract actually states that any poor backstage behaviour, any examples of homophobia, racism, transphobia, body shaming, you will not be paid and you will ask to leave. I will not tolerate that behaviour. I brought the contract in because of a bad or an unfavourable experience at one of my shows. It was a newcomer show, so not been on the scene very long, don't know the etiquette, and they were very rude, and the people that I brought with them were very rude and body shaming and talking about fat people on stage. So yeah, I brought a contract in because I will not tolerate that behaviour. If you behave a certain way, I'm not going to work with you. So yeah, be a good person or leave and don't get paid.
Coming out of the pandemic, there were a lot of people that were really anxious about going to events. So we thought it'd be a good idea to have somebody that could be a visual presence for people that were kind of suffering any forms of anxiety or had any kind of accessibility issues. It'd be better for them to be able to feed that back to somebody on the night rather than suffering through the event and then having to send an email afterwards with some feedback. It'd be a lot better if they could just see somebody whose job it is to kind of look out for them.
I think my sort of role in contributing to that space is sort of just almost like picking up on people's needs, even if they're not directly communicating them, and sort of saying like, you know, is there anything we can do to make this more comfortable for you? Would you like to go and do this? How can we help? I'm not there for me. I'm there to make sure they have the best experience that they can have and they're looked after in a professional way.
My regret with my venue is it has a stage. It's a great venue, but it's not an accessible stage, and that is a regret of mine that I wish I could fix. Someone did talk to me, because I was talking to someone about how, you know, I don't know what I can do about that in terms of like putting a ramp in, and they said that there is a promoter. I don't know who it was. They didn't say. But this promoter provides their own ramps into the venues. But from my perspective, I also don't drive, so I wouldn't even be able to transport a ramp. I'm very limited to what I can offer.
A lot of the venues in Leeds aren't accessible. Everything is either upstairs or downstairs, or too dark, or there's too much smoke, or the noise is too much. So I really wanted to set up a space where people can get in, they can move around freely, the noise isn't too much, and if it is, they have a space that they can go to get away from that. Just really to provide a space where anybody, any creed, any background, any age can come into that space and just feel whatever they want to feel.
There was this one show where I remember two audience members who I'd been going to shows for ages, and they would always have their walking aids. And when I performed Frida for the first time, they were there. And rather than clapping, they raised their canes. And it was like, that was why I did that routine.
I went to Sexual Freedom Awards recently, you know, and it was amazing. It was one of the best awards I've ever been to, because I'm pretty sure there was more than a quarter of people in the audience that were all in wheelchairs. And I don't think I've ever been in an audience with that sort of, you know, inclusive a demographic before. So that was kind of amazing.
Where I've seen the most, you know, open-minded and kind of like strict adherence to, you know, code of conducts is in, you know, the BDSM and the kink community, which normal society would probably look at as the most dangerous, transgressive, all of that. And it's actually the safest, because everybody will talk about what consent looks like, what you're comfortable with. It's communication.
The fetish scene, there are very clear boundaries. There are yeses, there are nos. There's a big emphasis on consent and looking after each other. And that was something that we kind of wanted to take over to Burlesque as well.
When I produce, I also host a show. And I have that conversation at the beginning with my audience about how, you know, everybody's here to have a good time. A part of having a good time is having a safe time. I was like, you know, and don't touch your neighbour when doing the street. You're not going to do it here without enthusiastic consent. You still feel, or somebody might feel a bit coerced into it, and you know, they still said yes, okay, but they're clearly not that okay with it. Whereas if somebody wants to touch you, you go, oh God, yes, please, that's enthusiastic.
Event organisers and producers can do more, definitely, to make their cast and the attendees feel safer. Again, we need to know that we're always learning. There's things that I will be pulled up on. There will be things that continuously we have to work upon. And that comes with our privilege. If we recognise that we have a certain level of privilege, we need to keep going to be able to evolve and make those situations safer.
Being out and knowing that there is somewhere to be you and to be safe is a huge burden lifted. I personally want to help promote and make places safer. Doesn't matter if you're trans, doesn't matter if you're bi, it doesn't matter if you've got two heads. You deserve safety and inclusivity.
I've almost now become really hyper aware of other trans and non-binary people who don't maybe pass as much as I do or look a certain way, and I can really see them struggle in spaces. And when going into a burlesque space that is really inclusive and safe, it's nice to see them walk in and then within minutes they're just relaxed, they're chilled out, you can see that they're within their community and they're accepted, no matter who they are, what they look like, what they're doing. They're just being themselves rather than having to mask and be somebody that they're not.
Down the bevel and a 1, 2, 3, 4, a 5, 6, 7, 8.
It is a community. We do support each other emotionally, financially, every which way. You know, we've got women that come to class that have built up enough confidence and resilience to be able to leave partners because they may be in an abusive relationship. These women come sometimes when they're so down and, you know, they're not well, and they come to the classes, they find the classes, they do the classes, you know, they join the community, they get the support, and then it just sort of ripples from there.
They've got your back 100%. It's a safe place. We're all ages, we're all sizes, we're all shapes, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just be true to who you are. The love that I find in this group and support is second to none. I know that they're there for me in every single way. If I need support or help in any way, I know for a fact that I've got it.
I don't have to mask. And what that has taught me over the last 2 years is if I don't have to mask here, I don't have to mask elsewhere. I've got a burlesque army on my doorstep. You know, it's that kind of safe space that I've never experienced before in my life. And it's my home, my absolute home.
The women that come to the classes are all ages, all backgrounds, all kinds of employment, all different sizes, all different thinking patterns, all different experiences, and yet somehow put together in this mixing pot, we all just fit.
It's the empowerment that I feel. It's learning to accept my body as it changes as I get older. You can't do things that I did when I was 20, but I don't want to either. I went shopping the other day, and these trousers, these take me back to my youth, and I'm thinking, do I get them, do I not? Oh, you're too old now, Joanne. And then I thought, how dare you think like that? Straighten your crown, lass. You're not too old. You're not too old for anything.
The first step is getting up there and doing it and being given that confidence and knowing that you've got the backing of the whole group. It's overwhelmingly joyous. It just is. It's really good to see the people that you care about shining.
Burlesque is about power, and I think a lot of people view that power and they see someone on stage, whatever they're doing, they are making a statement, they're creating art, they're exposing themselves on their terms.
You're looking at the audience and you're seeing people's faces transform, you know, from the really quiet where you can hear to, you know, people crying, to people laughing, to people just being like proper moved, because it can be a transformative experience, and burlesque can do all of that.
I think back to some of the most incredible performances I've ever seen, and yeah, quite literally they could be in a potato sack, but Jesus,
Yeah.
oh,
They move you.
they give you everything, and you're either tears or like shock, horror, what you've seen, or aroused.
It was the performance that I saw. They showed such exuberance, such life, and I'd not had that in my own life for a long, long time. And it touched a nerve deep inside, basically, that made me go, I'm in. I'm sold. I love everything about it.
I did a show in Zurich, and this woman, she literally made a beeline for me after the show, and I was like, I'm like, sis, you just keep showing up. You keep, you know.
That's about like representation. People thinking, oh my God, there's somebody that looks like me.
Yeah, if I can make audiences feel safe, make audiences feel included, and let audience see themselves on the stage, or people that look like them on the stage, then I'm halfway to doing the work I wanted to do.
I think when you've got people around you who are really authentic, they're fantastically creative people, they care about their art, they care about each other's art, it's really hard not to find a sense of belonging in that, because it's such a warm environment.
I know that I couldn't get on stage and do that, but to see a trans person appearing to have so much confidence within themselves and the audience appreciating how they look, whether they've had surgery or not, is such a nice thing. People cry when they see a trans person on stage because they can see how much it's benefiting the performer, and it's giving them the confidence to actually go on stage and do whatever they want to do and perform however they want to perform, and the audience are going to love it.
Everybody is there because they are part of this community, and they are either there to perform as part of that community, or they're there to support people to perform within that, or as audience members, they want to come and see it as an art form. Not every person is going to have that same walk of life. But their place within that is just as valid as everybody else's place within it as well.
What we have here is more than a stage. It's a sanctuary where women, queer performers and marginalised bodies feel the safety and support to take centre stage, not just as a spectacle, but also as a celebration of their worth.
What we have here is an approach where women are centre, and where these vulnerable, marginalised groups are centre, and it changes the narrative. Suddenly, these women, or these kind of queer bodies, these trans bodies, are suddenly significant, of value, and have worth.
One of the things for me about burlesque is there aren't any boundaries. It doesn't say you've got to have the perfect face. It doesn't say you've got to have what society says you should look like. You can be funny, you can be beautiful and serene, you can be a queen or a tiger, and burlesque says, okay, yeah, let's do that.
It actively and proactively celebrates you finding your authentic self, but it also celebrates your journey to that. There's like not a pressure to get to that point. It's about finding who you are in that space, and everyone collectively is doing that.
I've got a voice, me, I want to be heard, and this is how I'm going to be heard, and this is how I'm going to express myself, whether it's through dance, through art. This is an environment where we can express ourselves no matter what, and we aren't being judged.
So when you walk through those doors, you are joining a family, you are joining in something that's already established, but you never feel like an outsider.
When I come here, nobody cares that I'm the weird kid, because we're all a little different, and that's okay. We do embrace it, and I think that's the best thing, because we can be us, and I think that's beautiful.